You poop in comfort, they pooped in fear. What it was like to poop in the Middle Ages. You have a toilet, a seat, a door, a flush, maybe even a little fan, a scented candle, or a basket of neatly folded toilet paper. You probably don't think about it. You just go, and then you move on. But in the Middle Ages, pooping wasn't private. It wasn't comfortable. And it definitely wasn't safe. You could fall into a pit, freeze in a stone hole open to the wind. Or, if you lived in a crowded city, you might get hit with a bucket of human waste from a neighbor's window. They even had a word for it. Gardy loo, it meant look out below, because someone upstairs was dumping their chamber pot. And if you didn't move quickly, your day just got a whole lot messier. Now imagine this. It's the year 1347. You live in a village near the edge of a forest. Your home is wooden smoky and shared with goats. There's no plumbing, no running water, no privacy. And this morning, your stomach doesn't feel right. You shift on your straw mattress. You're sweating. You need to go. But where outside? It's raining. The mud is ankle deep. Inside, there's the chamber pot, but it's already full. You glance toward the corner of the room. A rat scurries. Your younger brother is still sleeping next to the fire. You hold your breath. This is not a rare moment. This is every morning. Because in the Middle Ages, nature called loudly, but answering it was complicated. Toilets as you know them didn't exist. Instead, there were shared pits, wooden seats, over-hose pots to be emptied, and castles with drafty stone ledges that dropped waste straight into the moat. People relieved themselves behind hedges, by riverbanks, or in city alleys. And what happened after? Well, let's just say wiping was creative. Rags, leaves, moss, even hands. But this isn't a horror story. It's history. It's real. It's the quiet, everyday side of the past we rarely talk about, but everyone lived through. So tonight, you'll go there. You'll time travel, not through battles or royal courts, but through dung heaps and garderobes. You'll squat beside peasants, nobles, monks, and you'll see how something so basic, so universal shaped daily life in muddy, marvelous detail. Because nothing brings you closer to the past than the bathroom habits of those who came before. Now dim your lights, lower your screen, get under the blanket, and if you're still here, like, subscribe, and tell me when's the last time history made you this curious. Before we dive into stone toilets and echoing castle halls, let's rewind a little. Back before the plague, before the panic, before anyone knew what was coming. Let's go to the year 1250. This isn't the romanticized Middle Ages of storybooks. This is the one that actually smelled very real. You're not royalty. You're not a knight. You're just someone, a shoemaker maybe, or the daughter of a miller, living in a village that doesn't have roads or glass windows or anything you'd recognize as clean. You rise with the sun, because the church bell tolls or the rooster won't stop. Your house is small. Wooden beams overhead. Packed dirt under your feet. A single room for the whole family. You, your parents, your siblings, maybe a pig or two, all breathing the same air, sleeping under the same thatched roof. There is no plumbing, no sink, no faucet, no flush. If you need water, you walk to a stream. If you want heat, you light a fire with wood you chopped yesterday. And if you need to go, well, you have choices, none of them good. Some people step out and squat by a hedge. Others use a wooden bucket inside the house, then carry it outside to dump. A few wealthier homes might have something resembling a privy, a small shed, with a hole cut over a pit. But most people, they just made do. There's a strange kind of intimacy in that. Everyone knows what everyone else is doing. You can hear it, smell it. There are no secrets between walls made of straw and clay. And yet they kept going. They cooked, they laughed, they loved. They built churches, held weddings, made bread. But always in the background was the scent of waste, in alleyways, beneath floorboards, around the edges of villages. Because when you have hundreds of people and no system to carry away what the body leaves behind, it builds up. This was the world before sanitation, before germ theory, before people even knew that waste could make you sick. They thought bad smells caused illness, not bacteria. So the goal wasn't to get rid of waste, it was to hide the stench. That's why they burned herbs, hung lavender by the door, placed rushes on the floor, hoping to trap the smell. But beneath it all, always was the truth. Everyone pooped. No one talked about it. And nobody, not even kings, had it easy. Let's leave the quiet village for a moment and walk into the city. You enter through a stone gate past walls, built to keep out wolves and thieves, but not the smell. The first thing that hits you, it's not the clamor of a marketplace or the clang of blacksmiths. It's the stench. It clings to everything. It lives in the cobblestones. It rises from gutters open, trenches cut into the middle of the street, meant to carry away water and waste. These aren't modern streets. They slope inward, not outward. Rain doesn't wash things away, it collects in the center. Alongside it, human waste. Horse manure, rotting food, animal guts from the butcher, and sometimes, things with teeth. You walk carefully. One wrong step, and your shoe sinks into something thick and soft. You glance up just in time to dodge a splash. From above, someone has dumped a bucket of something brown and sloshing from their window. No warning, no apology. The city doesn't smell like one thing. It's layers, rot and smoke, dung and fish, mildew and piss, all baked in the summer sun, all swirling in the winter fog. And it follows you. You pass narrow alleys, barely wide enough for a person to squeeze through walls, slick with moisture shadows, moving at the edges. People live up there, sleep, cook, relieve themselves. Below the streets are alive. Children barefoot, darting between carts, pigs rooting through piles of trash, vendors shouting beside heaps of cabbages and eel. No one seems to notice the smell, or maybe they've just adapted. Because in this world, sanitation is an afterthought, or more often no thought at all. There are no garbage men, no sewer systems, just people doing their best to stay clean in a world that's constantly sinking back into filth. And yet, here is where trade happens, where letters are delivered, where songs echo between church towers and lovers whisper in doorways, where kings pass through in gilded carriages and still horses leave behind what horses always do. This is the real city, not the romantic paintings, but the mud, the mess, the human side of history. And tonight, you're walking it, step by step, trying not to slip, and definitely not breathing too deep. Not everyone lived in a thatched hut or walked filthy city streets. Some lived in castles, and you might think, surely the bathroom situation was better there. But no, let's go inside. Stone walls, cold floors, a fire burning low in the hearth, and tucked away behind a wooden door in a quiet corner of the castle is the garderobe. It sounds fancy, but it's not. It's a stone bench with a hole in it, no seat, no warmth, no flush. Just a narrow shaft that leads straight down, sometimes to a moat, sometimes to a pit, sometimes just to the ground. You sit in your thick robes. Cold wind swirls around your legs. The stone bites into your skin, and far below you hear the slow, wet sound of centuries of waste dripping into darkness. There's no privacy, no toilet paper, only a rag, or wool, or whatever the servant remembered to leave behind. In winter the stone is freezing. In summer the smell drifts upward, trapped in the castle's drafty corridors. Some castles built double garderobes, 2 holes side by side, so you and a guest could go together. No walls between, just the open air and conversation. And this, believe it or not, was the luxury version. Because if you were a servant, you didn't use the garderobe. You used a pot or a bucket, and then carried it sloshing down winding staircases to dump outside, or if no one was looking, into the moat. Over time, the stone below the chute became stained, soaked, black with history. Some moats became septic lagoons, teeming with rot, buzzing with flies. And yet, despite all of this, the garderobe had one unexpected benefit. People stored clothes in there. Why? Because the smell of waste was believed to ward off moths. So your best linen tunic, it might hang right above the drop. Welcome to the castle. Grand halls, roaring fires, banquets fit for kings, and just around the corner, a cold stone hole full of secrets. Imagine this. You wake before the sun, not because you're rested, but because something deep in your belly twists a dull ache that slowly sharpens into urgency. The straw mattress beneath you crackles as you shift. The blanket, rough and musty, clings to your skin. It's cold. The fire in the hearth went out hours ago, and now your body is sending a message you can't ignore. You need to go. But this isn't your bathroom at home. There's no light switch, no door to close, no warm tile underfoot, just darkness, silence, and a growing pressure inside. You sit up slowly, careful not to wake the others. There are 5 of you in this room: your mother, your little brother, a cousin, and someone else curled near the ashes. Maybe the neighbor's boy again. Everyone breathes in unison, a soft rhythm in the chill. You don't want to make a sound, but your stomach gurgles again, louder this time. You pull on your outer tunic, slip your feet into worn leather shoes, and move toward the door. It creaks. You pause. No one stirs. You push it open, just enough to slip out the morning air, hitting your face like a slap. Cold, damp, sharp with the scent of wet earth and smoke. Outside, it's barely light, just a silver edge on the horizon. The chickens are quiet. The village dogs are still curled into themselves. But your gut is marching forward. No time to wait for the sun. There's no privy in your home. That's for rich folks. You walk past the woodpile, around the shed, and crouch by the edge of the common path, the same place everyone goes. There's no privacy, no walls, just habit. You lower your body. The ground is cold against your thighs. A breeze creeps under your tunic. You've done this before. It's normal. Except today it burns. And your breath catches. Maybe it was yesterday's barley. Maybe the water from the stream wasn't boiled long enough. Maybe it's just life. You finish wipe with a clump of moss and stand. Not proud, not ashamed, just finished. You bury it with a bit of dirt. Not because of germs, you don't know about those, but because it's polite, expected, maybe even holy. You head back toward the house steps, soft in the damp grass. Inside, the fire still sleeps. And so does everyone else. No one knows. No one needs to. Because here, in the year 1347, this is just part of living. And it's only the beginning of your day. Some nights you don't make it outside. Maybe it's raining. Maybe it's freezing. Maybe you're sick or just too tired. So instead, you reach for the chamber pot. It waits beneath your bed, silent and still. A simple clay or pewter bowl, cold to the touch, heavy when full. You try not to think about it during the day, but at night, it's there, and it serves its purpose. You slide it out careful, not to wake anyone. The room smells of old breath wool and bodies packed too close. You kneel beside the bed, heart thudding. It's awkward, exposed, but better than venturing out into the dark. You lift your tunic, balance, breathe. It's not quiet, a trickle, a splash, maybe a muffled cough from across the room. You finish, find a rag, tuck everything back, and then the worst part. You can't just leave it there. Someone, maybe you, maybe your sibling, will have to carry it out in the morning. Down the lane, past the chickens, to the ditch, or toss it over the fence. The pot itself must be rinsed, scoured with sand, or if you're lucky with ash and hot water. Sometimes accidents happen. It tips, it cracks, it breaks. Then comes the real shame, the puddle on the floor, the smell, the scolding. But no one gets angry for long. Because everyone understands. Everyone uses it, even your parents, even the elder with the bad knees, even guests in the middle of the night, whispering apologies as they crouch beside the hearth. Some families name their pot. Others decorate it with flowers, little jokes. Some are passed down cracked and mended, like heirlooms. It's funny, isn't it? This humble bowl, not much to look at, becomes one of the most used, most shared, most relied upon objects in the entire household. And when morning comes, and the birds begin to stir, you'll carry it outside. Hold your breath. Dump, rinse, repeat. Then tuck it back under the bed. Until the next night. You're in a town now. Not a big one, just enough people that the streets stay muddy and the dogs always seem busy. And if you're lucky, your town has a privy. A public one. Built on the edge of the market. A small wooden hut, maybe 3 walls, maybe 2. A door that never quite closes. A hole cut into a bench. And below it, a pit. It's not elegant. It's not clean. But it's something. You wait your turn. Sometimes there's a line. Sometimes there's someone passed out inside. Sometimes it's just unusable. But today it's empty. Lucky you. You step inside. It creaks. The wood underfoot is damp soft in the wrong places. You look down. The hole is large. The pit below, even larger. You sit, carefully. Not too far back, not too far forward. You don't want to fall in. Because yes, it happens. People do fall in. The boards rot, the footing slips, the whole structure tips. And then into the pit you go. Some climb out, some don't. Because the pit isn't just waste. It's disease. It's months, sometimes years of human excrement fermenting in the dark. It's the smell of sickness, the color of nightmares. You've heard stories of boys who dropped toys into the pit and reached too far, of drunk men stumbling in the night, of women who stepped in, slipped, and vanished. It's not just embarrassing, it's deadly. So you hold still, you grip the sides, you do what you came to do. The flies buzz around your face, the air is thick. You try to breathe through your mouth, but even that has a taste, and then you're done. You don't wipe, there's nothing to wipe with. Maybe a leaf, maybe straw. If you're lucky, a rag someone left behind. You stand, carefully, step outside, blink into the daylight. The market is still there, fish sizzling, children shouting, life continuing. And behind you, that little wooden box still standing, still waiting. You can't escape it. The smell isn't just in the streets. It's in your clothes, in your hair, in your mouth when you breathe too deep. It lingers in the walls of your home, baked into the wood, soaked into the straw. It rises from your shoes after a long walk. It hides in the folds of your blanket, your tunic, even your hands. You scrub with cold water from the stream, sometimes with ash, sometimes with vinegar if you're lucky. But still, the scent stays, because it's not just one smell. It's layers, smoke from the hearth, mold from damp walls, the sharp tang of chamber pots that were too full for too long, animal musk, sour milk, old sweat, and always that note of rot beneath it all. You try to get used to it. Everyone does. You stop noticing until you leave, and then return. That's when it hits hardest. Like when you visit a neighboring town and step into a cleaner house only to realize how foul yours must seem in comparison. Or when someone dies and you enter their home after the body's been removed and the smell of death still sits there thick and stale, refusing to go. People try to mask it. They hang dried lavender near the window, burn rosemary in the fire, rub mint leaves on their wrists. Some tuck herbs into their belts or under their caps, anything to push the stench away even for a moment. The wealthy carry pomanders, metal balls filled with perfumes and spices. They hold them to their noses when walking through the street, not just to feel elegant, but to survive the air. Doctors, when plague comes, will stuff their beaked masks with sweet herbs because they think the bad smells carry disease. And in a way, they're right, even if they don't know why. But for you, a peasant, a washerwoman, a child, there's no perfume. Only a hand to cover your face. A scarf tied loosely when it's worst. A prayer, maybe, to Saint Roch or someone nearby. You go to sleep with the smell in your nose. You wake with it still there. It becomes background, a part of life, a part of you. And maybe that's the strangest part, how something so awful, so sour, so foul, can feel, after enough time, almost normal. You're not in a village now, not in a town or castle. You're in a monastery, a place of silence, prayer, and strict order. You wake before dawn, as always. You eat little, you speak even less. You follow bells, not clocks, and when it's time, you go. The monastery has a latrine, a long stone building with seats carved into a bench side by side, evenly spaced. There are no doors, no partitions, no privacy. You and your brothers sit in silence, one by one, not looking, not speaking, just existing together in stillness as your bodies do what bodies must. The latrine sits above a channel of flowing water, if the builders were skilled. The current carries waste away, but the smell still lingers, faint but constant, like old soup, like wet stone and time. There are rules. You may not talk while using the latrine. You may not laugh. You may not groan. You sit. You finish. You stand. You rinse your hands in cold water. And you go. Everything in the monastery is meant to reduce temptation, reduce ego, reduce sin. But this place, this long, quiet room, confronts you with something else: vulnerability. Even monks must relieve themselves. Even monks must smell. Even monks must sometimes hurry, sometimes fail, sometimes feel ashamed. The abbot says it keeps you humble, that it reminds you of your body's weakness, that to bow your head on a wooden bench surrounded by others is to accept your humanity. You're not better than the body. You are the body. So you try not to blush when someone shifts beside you. You try not to wince when your own bowels betray you with noise. You try not to care when a younger monk coughs and scurries out early. You sit, you endure, and when you rise, you don't speak of it. You simply return to the hall, to prayer, to stillness, to a life devoted to things higher, even when they start from places lower. Someone had to deal with it, all of it. What came from chamber pots, from castle chutes, from monastery latrines, and public privies, it didn't disappear on its own. It was hauled away by men at night. They were called night soil men. They worked when the town slept. Shadows moving through alleys, carts creaking under the weight of waste, buckets sloshing full of what no one wanted to see in daylight. Their job, to empty the pits, to clear the cesspools, to take the city's filth and carry it somewhere else, often to the fields outside town, where it could be used somehow to fertilize crops. They wore thick boots, scarves over their mouths, sometimes leather aprons stiff with grime. The smell they stopped noticing, or pretended to. No one thanked them. No one invited them to dinner. They were part of the city, and also apart from it, needed but shunned, paid but avoided. Children whispered about them. Adults crossed the street. But when a cesspit overflowed, they were the ones who answered. And it was dangerous. Pits could collapse, fumes could choke. One wrong breath, one slip in the muck, and you didn't come back. Some died down there, suffocated by the very thing they were paid to remove. But someone had to do it, always. So they worked, night after night, shoveling, hauling, tipping, rinsing, their carts dark with liquid weight, their backs bent, their silence heavy. And when the sun rose, they were gone. No smell left behind, no trace, just cleaner streets, empty pots, and the illusion for a few hours at least of a world without waste. You hear about it first as a rumor. A pit behind the tavern full, overflowing. The owner needs it cleared before the feast day. You're not a night soil man, but you need money, and the offer is good. So you go. Behind the building in the early hours before sunrise, you find the pit. A square of earth, sunken, half-covered in rotting boards. The air stings your nose before you even get close. You tie a cloth over your face. You roll up your sleeves. And you lift the lid. The smell is unbearable. You gag. You step back. But there's no choice. With a bucket and rope you begin. Lower, scoop, lift, pour. The contents spill into a waiting barrel. Dark, sludgy, unholy. Your hands tremble. Your eyes water. Your stomach flips. And still you keep going. Hour after hour. You hear the town waking up. Church bells ring in the distance. Children laugh down the road. But here behind the tavern, you are elbow deep in what the city forgets. And it gets worse. Halfway through, the ground shifts. The boards crack. Your foot slips, and for a terrifying second, you're falling. You catch yourself. Barely. You scramble back, heart-pounding hands shaking. One more inch and you would have gone under. And no one would have come looking. People fall in. People die. The gases inside methane ammonia build up in old pits. They suffocate, they poison, they explode. That's why real night soil men carry candles, not just for light, but to test the air. A flickering flame is warning. A sudden puff, a death sentence. But you didn't know. No one told you, so you work faster. You finish. You seal the barrel. You haul it to the edge of the field where waste becomes soil. You burn your clothes, scrub your skin raw. But you never feel clean. Not really. And when someone asks how your day was, you just say messy. Because no one wants to hear the details. No one wants to know what lurks beneath their feet. But someone has to. You're a woman in the Middle Ages. And everything about your body is hidden, whispered, or judged. You don't speak of what you need. You don't ask for privacy. You wait, you endure, you disappear behind bushes, barn doors, corners of fields. Because modesty is law. Cleanliness is moral. And silence is survival. When you need to relieve yourself, you go alone. You walk farther than the men. You find a spot away from the path. You lift your skirts, and you listen not for your own comfort, but for footsteps. Someone might follow. Someone might look. Someone might say something. So you hurry. There is no toilet. There is no seat. No safe place. Just you, your body, and the endless dance between function and fear. And then there's bleeding. No one explains it to you. Not properly, not kindly. You learn when it happens, and when it does, you hide it. There are no pads, no tampons, no sanitation bins. You use rags if you have them, cloth that you wash in secret. And if you don't, you bleed into your underdress. You sit on straw. You excuse yourself from church and hope no one notices. You are told it's punishment, a curse, a burden women must bear. So you smile through cramps. You bow your head when the blood comes early or stays too long. You do not speak of it to your brothers, not to your father, not even sometimes to your mother. And when someone asks why you're pale or tired or walking a little slower, you just say, "I didn't sleep well." And they nod, because that's allowed. Shame seeps into you like the smell of the privy, quiet, persistent, unspoken. But it lives there, in the way you avoid eye contact, in the way you fold your hands to hide the stain, in the way you tuck your pain behind a practiced smile. This is not just about waste. This is about how the world sees you, or pretends not to. You follow the path behind your house, past the chickens, past the woodpile, down to the edge of the stream. Everyone comes here. Everyone uses it, for water, for washing, for everything. The stream doesn't judge. You see the baker's wife scrubbing linen, a shepherd rinsing mud from his boots, children splashing, someone bathing upstream, naked, hurried, glancing over their shoulder. And down the bend, someone else, dumping. A chamber pot, a bucket of blood from the butcher, ash, rot, a dead rat. It all goes in. There are no pipes, no drains, no separation. The clean and the filthy mix in the same current. Clear at dawn, cloudy by dusk. You kneel at the edge. Your hands dip into water that feels cool, even pure. You pretend not to notice the slick film, the strange smell. You wash your face, you fill your jug. You go home, but you know. You know this water carries more than it gives. And yet, what choice do you have? The well is dry. Rain barrels are for drinking. Bathing at home is rare and wasteful. So you come here, again and again. Because this is where life and filth collide. Some towns post laws: don't wash wool near the bridge, don't dump guts upstream, don't foul the water on Sundays. But no one listens. Because water flows. And what's done is carried away, or so they believe. But you've seen the scum catch in the reeds. You've smelled it. You've stepped in it. You've watched your cousin fall sick after bathing too long. You've heard of people drinking from the stream and never waking up. And still you return. You dip your hands. You wash your rags. You rinse your food. Because this is what you have. A stream, a blessing, a risk, and the quiet hope that today it will be clean enough. It's a small thing, but you think about it more than you'd like to admit. What do you wipe? With you a laborer? A farmhand. A servant use what's around. Leaves, moss. A rag if it hasn't already been used for something else. Sometimes straw, sometimes nothing. Sometimes just your hand rinsed afterward in cold water and scrubbed on your tunic. But the wealthy, they do it differently. They have cloths, soft linen cut and folded. They have servants to wash them. They sit in garderobes with cushions, wipe with care, and rise without worry. Some use wool, some import sponges. In the warm South, you hear of olive oil and perfumed water. Not you. You pick through the hedge for something that doesn't sting. You check for thorns, you pray it's dry, and when it's not, you still use it. Because the alternative is to do nothing, and that's worse. You've heard jokes about it, tavern songs, people laughing about the time someone used poison ivy, or stinging nettle, or got bitten while squatting. It's funny, until it's you. No one talks about how much it hurts. How sometimes after days without proper wiping, everything chafes, burns, bleeds. But you can't complain. Not really. Because wiping is a luxury. Because staying clean is work. Because no one expects peasants to be comfortable. You remember once, when you were a child visiting a large house, and there in the corner of the chamber you saw it. A pile of folded cloth, clean, fragrant, laid out like treasure. And you understood even then that softness was wealth. Winter doesn't care if you have to go. It doesn't care that you're tired or sick, or that the chamber pot is already half full. It just gets colder. Your breath fogs as soon as you sit up. The fire went out hours ago. The stone floor bites your feet through the wool socks. You pull your cloak tighter, but it doesn't help. You reach for the pot. The handle is ice. The rim stings your skin. Inside, the surface is frozen. A pale crust over last night's waste. You break it with the ladle. Hold your breath. And squat carefully, trying not to shiver too much. Because in winter, everything slows down. Even this. Your body hesitates. Clenches. Protests. The cold makes it worse, tighter, harder, sharper. What was once routine becomes struggle. And outside, it's even worse. If you need to use the privy, you bundle up 2 tunics, a cloak, wool wrapped around your head. You trudge through snow, Your feet slip on ice, your teeth chatter. You reach the outhouse and find the door frozen shut, or open swinging in the wind. You sit on a stone slab that's colder than death, and you try to relax. But everything in your body screams no. The wind whistles through the cracks. Snow sneaks in under the door. The hole beneath you echoes with frost. You go quickly, if you can, then rush back hoping your bare skin didn't brush the rim too long, hoping you didn't touch something with frozen fingers that won't feel again for an hour. You huddle near the hearth. Pray for warmth. Pray for spring. Because until the thaw, every relief comes with pain. And every morning reminds you even your most basic needs can freeze. You don't live alone. Not really. Even if your house is small, even if it's just your family, you share your space with animals. The chickens sleep under the bed. The goat huddles near the hearth. The pig has a corner of the kitchen fenced with old firewood. And outside, it's worse. Horses tied near the front door. Cows in the alley. Dogs. Cats, geese, rats, all weaving between the feet of villagers like they belong there. Because they do. And they leave behind everything. Droppings in the straw. Piles near the fence. Warm, steaming mounds in the middle of the road. No one picks it up. You just avoid it. Step over, step around, or don't, and keep walking. The smells mix. Dung mud, urine hay, smoke sweat, all blending into one pungent perfume that settles over everything. Sometimes you're not sure what you're smelling. Animal, human, both. You clean the house, but the pig comes back in. You sweep the floor, but the dog pees near the door. You rinse your hands, and the goat nibbles your tunic while you do. And when it's time to go, when you squat behind the shed, or crouch by the fence, a chicken might peck near your heel. A dog might sniff too close. A rat might dart past your toes. You learn not to scream. You learn not to flinch. You learn that privacy is a concept for the rich or the lonely. And yet, you sleep beside the cow. You eat near the pig. You laugh when the goat bleats mid-sermon. Because this is life. Messy, noisy, crowded, and full of creatures that make it warmer even when they make it worse. Castles are grand. Stone towers, high gates, tapestries, and feasts. But when nature calls, even lords must squat. Welcome to the garderobe. It's a small stone room, built into the castle wall. One narrow bench, a hole, and below a sheer drop. You perch above open air. Your waist falls into the moat, or a pit, or sometimes just onto the rocks below. No plumbing, no flushing, just gravity and hope. The cold bites your thighs. Wind whistles up through the chute. You shiver and grip the walls. Some garderobes are built high, some overhanging the outer wall, some with curtains if you're lucky, but most are exposed and dangerous. There are stories of children falling through, of drunk nobles losing their balance, of assassins crawling in through the chute trying to sneak into the keep. But still it's better than nothing, better than squatting in the snow, better than sharing with the servants, better than a chamber pot in a stuffy room full of guests. And yet, it's not clean. The smell lingers in the stone. The stain seeps down the walls. In summer the flies gather in clouds. Moats become cesspools, green, sludgy, slow-moving filth. And if the enemy lays siege that moat, your moat becomes your water source, your bath, your last defense. So you avoid it, pretend not to know, pray the smell stays outside. Because no matter how high your tower, no matter how thick the walls, you still sit with your knees up, your cloak bunched under you, listening to the plop echo down into darkness. Even kings poop, just higher up. It starts small, just a scratch, a tingle, a little spot that won't stop itching. But it spreads. The itch creeps lower, around the waistband, between your legs, along the cleft of your backside, where it's warm, damp, and rarely cleaned. You try not to think about it. You try not to scratch in public. But the parasites don't care about shame. Lice, fleas, pinworms, they live with you, on you, inside you, and they feast. Your underclothes are rarely washed. You share beds, blankets, benches. You don't change often. You don't bathe much. You feel them crawling at night. You wake up with bites. You dig at your skin until it bleeds. You ask your sister to check your hair. She finds eggs. She finds more than that. You sit on straw that's never replaced. You wipe with leaves. You defecate in fields and hope no one's watching. But the worms come anyway. And they stay. You eat with dirty hands, drink from shared cups, share the same bucket for washing feet and washing cuts, and that itch it never really leaves. You try old remedies, garlic, ash, salt, and vinegar. You burn old bedding. You comb your hair with a heated fork. Still, the itch returns. It becomes normal, part of life, part of your skin. And when someone asks why you're shifting in your seat, you just smile, shrug, and say, "Too much hay in the trousers." They'll laugh. Because they know. They itch too. Everyone itches. The pub is warm, loud. Spilled ale on every table. Laughter bouncing off timber beams. Stories shouted over clinking mugs. You've had 3 drinks, maybe 4. You're not counting. But your bladder is. You stand up unsteady, mutter an excuse, stumble past tables, out the heavy wooden door, and into the cold. Because there's no toilet inside. The privy's outside, always is. You walk through mud, feel the chill bite through your boots, hear distant voices still singing behind you. There it is, the shed. Wooden, leaning slightly, door hanging crooked. You push it open, it creaks. Something scurries inside. A rat, you hope not. But you step in anyway. You close the door, or try to. It doesn't latch. You squat. Or if you're lucky, you sit on the splintery board. No candle, no window, just the smell of old beer and older waste. You do your business. Halfway through, you hear something. Footsteps breathing. You freeze, hold still, then laugh at yourself. Too much ale. Or maybe not enough. You finish quickly. There's no wiping. Not out here. Just a shiver, a shake, and pulling your clothes back up with stiff fingers. You open the door and step out. The night is darker now, quieter, and you feel suddenly exposed. But back at the pub, the music is still going. Someone's calling your name, and the fire, the glorious fire, waits inside. So you walk back, boots heavy with mud, smelling of wood smoke, and something worse. You slide onto the bench, raise your mug, and smile. Because for all the filth, for all the cold, there's something about drinking in a room full of laughing strangers that makes even the worst privy feel worth the walk. You're small, maybe 4, maybe 5, old enough to walk but not yet old enough to know the rules. And today you need to go. You tug your mother's sleeve. She looks down, sighs, and wipes her hands on her apron. "Come on," she says. She leads you outside, past the animals, past the well, to a patch behind the woodpile, the family spot. There's no toilet, just a trampled patch of dirt, a familiar smell, and a few flat stones. You don't understand. Not yet. She lifts your tunic, tells you to squat. You wobble. She steadies you. It feels strange. Cold air on bare skin. Breeze on your knees. You fidget, giggle. Ask if it's supposed to take this long. She shushes you, waits. And when you're done, she shows you how to wipe with a leaf, soft and broad. Or a rag, or nothing. She tells you not to touch, not to sit in it, not to brag about the shape or size. You nod. You forget. You probably brag anyway. Later that day, you go alone. Not far, just behind the barn. You squat too close to the chickens. You fall backward. You cry. Your father laughs. Your brother runs to tell everyone. Your mother just shakes her head and gets the bucket. No one teaches you with books, no diagrams, no polite talk. You learn by doing, by failing, by watching others. Sometimes you go in the wrong place. Sometimes you go too late. Sometimes you lie and say you already went. But over time, you get it. You find your own spots. You learn which leaves sting. You learn how to squat without falling. And one day when your little cousin tugs your sleeve, you sigh, wipe your hands, and say, "Come on." Siege warfare is slow, starvation, waiting, watching. But when boredom sets in, things get inventive and foul. Because when you run out of arrows, when the battering rams fail, you look around and see what else can fly. Corpses, rotting animals, and yes, human waste, buckets of it, barrels, sometimes entire carts filled with weeks of refuse hauled up onto the battlements. You don't just want to break their walls, you want to break their will. So you fling filth over the gates, into courtyards, onto their food, into their water. You watch them scatter. You hear the screams. The stench hits first. Then the sickness. Because inside the walls, they're already weak, hungry, desperate, and now covered in disease. Waste becomes weapon. You smear it on arrows, pack it in animal guts, let it fester in the sun until the air itself feels dangerous. And it works. Plagues bloom in besieged cities. Boils rise. People die not from swords, but from filth. It's not honor. It's not glory. But it is effective. The enemy surrenders, or dies, or both. And when you march through the gates, you gag, because the smell doesn't care who wins. You cover your face, burn your boots, and pray you don't carry something home, because war leaves behind more than ruins. It leaves rot, and sometimes revenge in the form of a bucket. In church, they speak of purity, clean hearts, clean souls, clean hands. But your body isn't clean. You sweat, you stink, you expel waste, and no matter how much you pray, your body keeps doing what it does. The priests preach that sin has a scent, that the foulness of the flesh reflects the darkness of the soul. And you believe it, because how could holiness smell like this? You kneel in the pew with stained clothes. You shift in your seat, trying to hide the odor rising from unwashed feet. You see the noblewoman nearby clutch her pomander tighter. You try not to take it personally, but it is personal. They say Eve brought shame into the world, that her body and yours bears the burden of that first mistake. So when you menstruate, they call you unclean. When you labor, they turn their heads. When you bleed sweat or soil yourself, they whisper that it's because of sin. Some saints go further. They refuse to bathe. They sleep in rags. They roll in ashes, proving that holiness isn't about soap, but about surrender. And yet, even they suffer. One story tells of a nun who prayed so fervently she stopped washing entirely. When the lice overtook her, she praised them as God's tiny servants. You wonder if you're that devout. You wonder if you have a choice, but deep down you know your filth isn't a sign of faith. It's a fact of life. And while the church sings of heaven, you sit in the pew shifting on the bench, knowing that if God made you, He must have known you'd smell like this. It sounds like a joke, something you'd hear in a tavern. A man dies on the toilet. Everyone laughs, but it happens, more than you think. The privy isn't safe, the wood rots, the stone slips, the hole below yawns wide and unforgiving. People fall in, they lose their balance, they faint from heat, they drink too much, they lean too far forward or back, and down they go, into the pit, into the waste, into darkness. And it's not just the fall. It's what's down there: toxic gas, lack of oxygen, suffocation. You breathe in, and it's over. There are records of kings, of noblemen, of children, some found drowned in filth, others dead from the fumes before they even hit the bottom. One tale speaks of a bishop slipped during midnight prayers, vanished down the chute, found days later silent and still beneath the monastery. Another, a servant girl, sent to clean the Lord's chamber pot, collapsed from the stench, never woke up. And still, you go, because you have to, because when your body calls, it doesn't care about risk, or dignity, or design flaws. You step carefully, you grip the sides, you hold your breath, and pray you make it back, because no one wants to be remembered as the one who died in a privy. But some are, and in that silence between breaths, you can't help but wonder, what if it's your turn? You don't bathe often, not because you don't want to, but because it's complicated. Water must be fetched, heated, poured into a wooden tub that leaks at the seams, if you even have one. So you wait, days, weeks, until your skin itches, until your hair clumps, until your own smell becomes unbearable even to you. Then you prepare, you gather wood, light a fire, fill pots, boil, lift, pour, again and again, until the tub is half full. You undress, hesitant, because in the cold everything is exposed, everything aches. You step in, the water is warm for a moment, then lukewarm, then cold. You scrub with what you have, a rough cloth, ash and fat if there's no soap, maybe a handful of lavender if it's spring. You wash your face, your hands, your arms, but not all of you, not deeply, not thoroughly, because the water is now gray, because your brother is waiting his turn, because you don't want to sit too long in your own filth. Some say bathing too often is bad. It weakens the body, invites illness, softens the skin. So you rinse quickly, step out, wrap yourself in whatever is dry, and dump the tub. The water runs into the yard. Steam rises from the dirt. The chickens scatter. You feel not clean, but less dirty, and that's enough. You go to bed with damp hair, skin prickling, blanket rough against your scrubbed shoulders, and you whisper to yourself, I won't wait so long next time. But you will. Because in the Middle Ages, a bath is a luxury, an event, a burden. And for most, clean is just a dream. You're on the road, dust on your boots, a pack on your back. You've been walking for hours, maybe days, and now you need to go. There's no inn nearby, no friendly doorstep, just open fields, dense trees, the long, endless road stretching behind and ahead. So you look around, you step off the path, far enough to be alone, far enough that no one sees. You find a tree, a ditch, a patch of tall grass. You squat, no cover, no comfort, just earth and sky. And if it's raining, you go anyway. Mud clings to your boots, water trickles down your back. If it's winter, your hands shake, your knees lock. You finish as fast as your body allows. There's no wiping unless you've packed cloth, or brought moss, or saved a scrap of linen. You hope you don't step in it. You hope no one sees. You hope the wind's in your favor. Sometimes you reach a town. And if you're lucky, truly lucky, they have a public privy, a hole in the ground, a bench, a door that might close, and a man at the entrance asking for a coin. 1 coin for relief, 2 for a scrap of cloth. If you can't pay, you wait. You sneak behind a wall. You ask a tavern owner for mercy. Sometimes they let you in, sometimes they don't, because travelers smell, because travelers bring lice, because the road is hard and people are wary. You learn to go early, to go quickly, to go quietly. And when someone asks what it's like living on the road, eating by firelight, sleeping under stars, you never mention this part. You just say, it's not so bad. You never see them. Not really. They're already gone by the time you wake. Or they slip through alleys, quiet as ghosts. No one thanks them. No one remembers them. But they're always there. The ones who shovel the waste, who scrub the stone floors of the abbey, who rinse blood from the butcher's trench, who dump the chamber pots of nobles without making a sound. They are women, men, children sometimes, servants, laborers, outcasts, people with no other choice. They haul buckets in the early hours. They wipe what others won't. They bury the rot behind city walls. They do it without gloves, without masks, without clean water. Their fingers crack, their backs ache, their lungs fill with things no one wants to name. And when they get sick, no one notices. They're replaced, quietly, effortlessly, because filth is constant, and someone must face it. They learn the patterns when the cesspit fills, when the latrine floods, when the streets reek too much for the merchants to ignore. They come with carts, with straw, with lime. They scrape, they sweep, they disappear. And when the town feels a little less foul, when the air becomes barely tolerable again, no one asks how, because comfort is invisible, and those who provide it forgettable. But every clean doorstep, every emptied pot, every breath you take without gagging, that's them. The forgotten hands, the invisible caretakers, holding back the tide of waste, 1 bucket at a time. You've seen the image. The long curved beak, the wide-brimmed hat, the dark cloak, leather gloves, a cane to keep distance. It's terrifying, iconic, almost scientific. But the truth? It's mostly myth. Most plague doctors weren't trained. They weren't respected. Many weren't even true doctors, just men willing to do a job no one else wanted. They were hired by towns desperate for order, not cures. Their duties recording deaths, watching the sick, writing wills. The beak wasn't magic, it was superstition. Inside the mask's beak, they stuffed herbs, lavender, mint, cloves, camphor, anything to overpower the stench of rot. They believed in miasma, the theory that disease spread through foul smells, not germs. So they tried to block the bad air with good smells. It didn't work. They still got sick. They still died. Because no matter how long the beak or thick the cloak, they had no protection against fleas, rats, or bacteria. And the cane that was used to poke at patients from a distance, sometimes to turn bodies, sometimes to keep the desperate away, sometimes just to point. But they became legends, in paintings, in costume parties, in pop culture. They look powerful, grim, almost noble. But imagine this instead, a man poorly paid, terrified, sweating inside a hot leather coat. He's walking street to street counting corpses, trying not to vomit through the herbs in his nose. He's not there to help. He's there to observe and survive. He likely won't. So why do we remember him? Maybe because he looks like someone in control. Like someone who knew what he was doing. But that's just the costume talking. He was a symbol of chaos, not cure. Fear, not medicine. And behind the mask, just another man, waiting to die. We love to imagine the nobility as spotless, perfumed, gowned, draped in silks, but the truth beneath those layers sweat, dirt, and a whole lot of denial. Medieval nobles rarely bathed, some only once or twice a year. They believed hot water opened the pores and let illness in. So instead of washing, they covered it up. With powder, with perfume, with more clothes. They changed their outer garments, often the fancy fabrics everyone saw. But the linens underneath, the ones closest to their skin, not so much. One noblewoman reportedly wore the same shift for 6 months. She smelled so bad her servants had to hold their breath when near her. But no one dared speak, because status trumped scent. They did have fancy basins, gold-trimmed, porcelain, lavish, but they were for show. A quick rinse of the hands before dinner, a splash to the face in the morning. Not for full body cleaning. Their privies weren't better either. Garderobes dropped waste straight into castle moats, which then fed into city water sources. Even kings stank. Peasants may not have had silk or soap, but at least they squatted outdoors where the wind helped. They may have been dirtier by the world standards, but they smelled no worse. In fact, sometimes they smelled better. We think of nobles as clean because they were rich, but in the Middle Ages, money didn't buy hygiene. It just bought someone else to clean up after you, and even then, not very well. Look at a medieval map. See the twisty roads, the crowded alleys, the random pockets of open space. They weren't designed for charm. They were designed for waste. Cities grew around cesspits, around streams, around the natural flow of filth. Privies lined the walls. Slop buckets were emptied into streets. Waste was tossed from windows. Some towns passed laws. No dumping from above the second story. No butchering animals in the street. No washing wool upstream from the baker. But no one listened, because it was impossible to control. Waste was part of life, constant, endless. In London, they tried building covered gutters, open ditches lined with stone. They were supposed to carry sewage out of town. They clogged within weeks. Paris had street cleaners, but they were outnumbered. For every one man with a shovel, there were hundreds more with buckets. Rome's famous aqueducts, they carried clean water in. But the waste had nowhere to go. And beneath all of it layers, strata of dirt dung and discarded bones. Every generation built on top of the last, rot below life above. Even now, when cities dig new tunnels, they find the filth of the past. Barrels, bones, entire cesspits, perfectly preserved. Proof that waste wasn't just a byproduct of medieval life. It was the foundation. Today, you flush and forget. You wash your hands and walk away. You step into a warm shower soap up and never once think, how did this get here? Because modern cleanliness feels automatic. But it's not. It's built. We've inherited a system that hides the mess. Pipes underground, trucks that whisk trash away at dawn, bathrooms scrubbed by invisible hands. We call it progress. And it is, but it came at a cost. Plagues, revolutions in plumbing, generations of labor, and centuries of shame. Even now, the people who clean public toilets, who collect trash, who work in sewers, they're paid little, praised less, because we still don't want to look at what keeps us clean. But maybe we should, because comfort is not natural. It's designed, maintained, protected, and without it, we're just a few skipped baths away from smelling like 1347. So next time you flush, pause. Whisper a quiet thank you, not just to the plumber, but to every unknown hand, medieval or modern, who made this life possible. Because history doesn't just live in books. Sometimes it clings to your shoes. Here's the part no one likes to say out loud you wouldn't survive. Not the chamber pots, not the filth-streaked walls, not the constant odor that clings to every breath, every meal, every hour of sleep, not the shame of needing to go and having nowhere clean, nowhere safe, nowhere private. You'd hesitate, you'd wait too long, you'd look for a toilet, for plumbing, for signs, for a flush handle, and they'd laugh at you, not cruelly, not unkindly, just knowingly, because they don't expect privacy or dignity, because this isn't your world, it's theirs. In their world, need comes first, hygiene comes last. Shame has no place, or rather, no one can afford it. So you go, wherever, however. You do your business in a corner, or behind a fence, or over a hole in the ground. You hover above a dark pit with buzzing flies and slick, slimy stones underfoot. You breathe through your mouth. Try not to look down. You come back to the table, pale hands, unwashed cheeks, flushed with embarrassment. They don't notice, or if they do, they don't care. They grew up with it, with the stench, with the stains, with the sound of waste splashing into water or straw or mud. You try to pretend it's normal. You try to forget what you saw, but it stays with you, because you're not built for this. You weren't raised like this. You expected something else. Walls, soap, a toilet that takes it all away. But here the walls are too thin, the water is too cold, and the waste never truly goes away. You're not ready. And that's the truth. Now you can go back. To your bed, your soft pillow, your lamp glowing dimly beside you. To clean sheets, a locked bathroom door, the hum of modern plumbing. But something follows you back. A shadow, a thought, a scent in the imagination. That moment you closed your eyes and imagined crouching in a wooden shack with a hole cut into a rotting bench. The smell, the flies, the drip of moisture from the beams above, the rats rustling somewhere beneath you. That feeling of exposure, of vulnerability, doesn't leave easily, because you saw something tonight. You walked into a world that wasn't fiction, wasn't fantasy. It was history, and it was real. Millions live that way, every day, for centuries, and some still do. They wiped with rags, held their breath, taught their children where to squat and what to avoid. They died from what we flush. They feared what we scent with candles. They lived in it, slept near it, cooked beside it, and yet they endured. So next time your water runs cold, or your toilet overflows, or the plumber is late, pause. Remember that you once traveled here just for a night, and it changed how you see the world. History isn't always distant. Sometimes it clings to the soles of your shoes. Now, breathe. Feel the stillness of your room, the softness of your sheets, the warmth wrapping around your legs. You are not in the year 1250. There is no chamber pot beneath your bed, no cold wind sneaking in through stone walls, no straw mat crawling with lice. You are safe. You are not outside in the rain searching for a quiet spot behind the trees. You are not squatting over a frozen trench listening for wolves. You are here, and it matters. The hum in the background, not flies. A fan, a heater. The quiet tick of time and comfort. The light on the ceiling. Not a flickering candle, not a burning torch. Just electricity. Clean, quiet, reliable. If you need to go, you know where to go. It's warm, private, bright. There is paper, and water, and soap. And when you return, no one will avoid you. No one will whisper. No one will smell what you did. You live in a different world, one that was built for comfort, one that thousands of years never knew. And now, you rest in it. Let the past fall away. Let the dark pit close behind you. Let the smell dissolve. Let your body relax. Let your thoughts drift. Let the stories fade. You survived the Middle Ages, in imagination, in empathy, in awe. But now, you're home. So dim the lights. Lower your screen. Sink into the silence. You're not in the dirt anymore. You're not crouched in shadow. You're here. You're clean. You're safe. You're alive. Sleep well. Good night.